Well, before we close out 2022, we got plenty of bowl games for the rest of the year. And, of course, today's slate, you got Notre Dame and South Carolina, top 21 matchup between the Irish and the Gamecocks at 3:30 Eastern time. Then Ohio taking on Wyoming out in Arizona at 4:30. And then this one, you got 6 for 7, Tennessee and Clemson. The Tigers favored by 6 in that Orange Bowl at 8 p.m. Eastern later tonight. All right, join us now to kind of help us with some of those picks here. Chip Patterson checking in, and we need some of those plays and why not. Let's start with that Gator Bowl in Notre Dame and South Carolina in Jacksonville. Two squads here, they kind of turned on late in the year, Chip.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this game because it's going to mark the return of Tyler Buchner, the quarterback who started the year for Notre Dame, was knocked out with what appeared to be a season-ending injury very, very early on. And yet, with Drew Pine off to the transfer portal, now all of a sudden, we get to see the kid again. So Buchner, who was used a little bit in 2021 as part of a 3-quarterback rotation, we get to see what he looks like, and that's going to be very important when we think about the future of the quarterback position at Notre Dame. Remember, Sam Hartman, the stellar Wake Forest quarterback, is reported to be angling towards being at Notre Dame after entering the transfer portal following the Demon Deacons Bowl win. So I'm fired up about it. I think that this is a spot where South Carolina's got a lot of opt-outs on the defensive side of the football. Buchner back in, a little bit of an unknown quantity, but I like chaos. I'm going to lay these points with the Fighting Irish.
Gamecocks, by the way, coming off those big wins against Tennessee and Clemson in that Palmetto Bowl. Arizona Bowl, you got Ohio 9-4 this season in the MAC, and Wyoming 7-5. Their second consecutive bowl game in 3 of the 4 seasons here. What you got?
I understand that Ohio is not the same team without Curtis Rourke at quarterback. We saw that in the MAC championship game. The Bobcats could not move the football at all as they were playing for the conference title. But I still like the way the rest of this team is built. And Wyoming is really starting to see a little bit of an exodus right now from Laramie in terms of the transfer portal. They saw it after last season. It appears that that is the way things are looking again. Craig Bohl's really going to have to do some work to be able to restock this roster for 2023. Ohio's been so good to me. Those who listen to the Cover 3 podcast know what we call it because Ohio is a wagon. And though that wagon has relied on Curtis Rourke for a lot of it, the issues with Wyoming have me back on and rolling down the road with the Bobcats.
All right, taking Ohio there at 9-4 in the season. The Orange Bowl, Chip, I have to say a few weeks ago, if you would have told me about this before when we had Hendon Hooker and DJ Uyunglele, I've been all over it, but neither, of course, will be on the field for Clemson there in Tennessee. But what's your play here tonight between these two?
I don't want any part of the side just because there's so much potential for silly and dumb. I mean, these are two very, very good football teams that are going to be in this game, and I could see it being sloppy. I could see a lot of explosive plays. So what I'm actually going to be attacking here is the total. I'm going to go under because while Joe Milton is coming into this game with a very live arm, I do think that the absence of Jalen Hyatt is going to matter in terms of that Tennessee passing game. And then while Clemson is turning the reins over to Cade Klubnik, I think that maybe they are not going to take the training wheels all the way off, and I think the offense is going to be a little bit more simplified. But the most important thing that I have seen here is that so many of these Clemson defensive linemen, just absolutely phenomenal players, seems like they're going to play in this game. So I think that Clemson's defense ends up being the best unit on the field, and they keep this thing in a place where that Tennessee up-tempo offense doesn't get to see the field a lot. So I'm going to go under 63.5.
All right, taking the under there, and then, of course, Clemson favored by 6 in that matchup against Tennessee. Let's switch to Saturday with the Sugar Bowl. Look, Alabama may be under their standards in this point, usually in the CFP. As for Kansas State here, exceeded expectations, winning the Big 12 championship. This could be maybe the best matchup we'll see outside of the semifinals this weekend.
Yeah, we got Bryce Young playing. We've got Will Anderson playing. And do you think they'll play the whole game, Brandon? Because I could see a situation where, they get all this good headlines for, hey, look at these guys that aren't opting out. They create a great energy in the locker room. But what if when they come back out of the locker room from halftime, what if Bryce Young's not there? So I understand. I see him a little bit like a sour or a cynic by at least factoring this into my handicapping. But Brandon, I'm trying to win money. I'm not trying to win hearts. And I think that Kansas State is a live dog in this situation. I think that 6.5, we snap it up. If you can find it at 7 closer to kickoff, then of course get that. But the Wildcats legitimately are one of the best teams in the entire country. What they did to TCU in the Big 12 championship game was no joke. And remember, their losses during the year had a lot to do with some injury issues, both at quarterback and on the defensive side of the football. I think that with some time to get healthy and with some time to prepare for the Crimson Tide, this Kansas State team comes in hair on fire. It's a weird spot, Sugar Bowl at 11 a.m. local time. We're not really used to getting the party started in New Orleans at 11 a.m. local time. I think Kansas State, in all of their Midwestern sensibilities, they can do an 11 a.m. kickoff and they can bring the fight early. So I like Kansas State plus the points.
All right, you got star power there. This last one, Music City Bowl, not so much. You got Iowa, Kentucky, the battle of the backups here. What are you watching between these two?
I'm watching the line of scrimmage. Kentucky's offensive line has been a weakness all season, and I think Iowa's defensive line is going to absolutely cook. The total in this game is 31. It does not take many points to be able to win this game. I'm going to go with Iowa's defense. I'm going to go with Iowa's punting. I think the Hawkeyes can win and cover the spread.
Taking the Fido Chris Hassels there when it comes to Iowa in that Music City Bowl. As always, Chip Patterson, appreciate it there. Does not care about your hearts. All about earning some money. Check out those picks that he just had with us, taking Notre Dame 3.5. Ohio, the Bobcats at 2 and a hook. And then Tennessee and Clemson, the under a 63.5. And then maybe a surpriser. Kansas State plus 6.5. And the Hawkeyes there in that bowl game of Music City Bowl.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.